Imagine walking into work thinking it's just another night, same old clinking glasses, the steady hum of voices mixing with the soft notes of jazz floating from the bar, regulars waving for refills, cooks shouting orders in the back, but in the middle of all that, you get blindsided by someone who thinks your job says everything there is to know about you. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. And trust me, I'll never forget the look on his face when everything turned upside down. I'd been waitressing at that downtown restaurant for what felt like forever long enough to recognize the faces that came in for business deals, the couples on first dates, the tired parents escaping their kids for a rare night out. You get used to it, the rhythm of serving, the stories you pick up in snatches as you set down plates and clear empty glasses. Most nights, I could tune out the comments or the subtle way some folks look at you, like you're part of the scenery. But that night was different. It started normal enough, me running through the specials in my head as I made my way to a table in the corner prime spot for the power players. There he was, Jonathan Richards, the kind of CEO you read about in business magazines, surrounded by his sharply dressed colleagues. He had this look about him like the room belonged to him, like the world did. The way he scanned the menu, smirking, barely glancing up as I greeted them, you just knew he was the type used to getting his way. I put on my best smile. "Good evening, gentlemen. What can I get you started with tonight?" But before I'd even finished, Jonathan cut in, voice loud enough to turn heads at the neighboring tables. "If you're so smart, then translate this," he said, jabbing a finger at some fancy Italian dish on the menu. The way he said it, dripping with sarcasm, I knew right away this wasn't about the food. He wanted to see me stumble, prove that I was just another waitress. For a split second, I felt like every eye in the restaurant was on me waiting, maybe even hoping I'd slip up. But something in me just snapped into place. I wasn't going to let him or anyone else decide my worth. So I steadied my breath, kept my voice calm, and said, "Actually, I do speak Italian. I'd be happy to translate it for you, sir." The whole room went quiet like someone had hit pause. Jonathan leaned forward, eyebrow raised, probably thinking he'd caught me bluffing. "Oh, really? Go ahead. I'm curious to see if you actually know what you're talking about." Without missing a beat, I read the dish explained in perfect Italian, then in English, that it was a traditional risotto with seafood, shrimp, calamari, mussels, all cooked in a creamy broth. I even threw in, just for good measure, "It's one of our best sellers." Not only had I answered his question, but I'd done it with a confidence that left him speechless. That's the thing about underestimating people. It never ends the way you think. He just sat there, silent, maybe replaying the scene in his head, trying to figure out how things had turned so fast. For a moment, you could see the armor drop. This wasn't about food anymore, or even about me, really. It was about his need to feel superior, to prove that his title put him above someone in a server's apron. But I didn't let him off easy. I looked him in the eye, still polite but firm, and said, "Intelligence doesn't come with a job title or the color of someone's skin. It's about what you know and how you treat people." His friends exchanged glances, some with a hint of embarrassment, some with what looked like newfound respect. I could almost feel the entire room shifting, the power dynamics rewiring themselves right there in that moment. Jonathan finally spoke, his voice lower now, not nearly as sure of himself. "I didn't expect that. I'm sorry if I was out of line." For a guy who'd probably never apologized to a waitress before, it was a big deal, and it wasn't lost on his colleagues. The ones who'd laughed at his joke earlier now seemed a lot quieter, maybe thinking about all the times they'd let stuff like that slide. But it didn't end there. I still had to take their order, go back to the kitchen, make sure everyone else in the place was happy. I leaned against the counter, heart pounding, and let myself process what had just happened. It's wild how something as small as a menu question can dig up years of being judged, being told directly or otherwise that your work defines you, that you're only as valuable as your tips, that you should be grateful for scraps of respect. I'd seen it too many times, people in power talking down to those they think can't talk back. But here's the thing I'd learned long ago, that my dignity was mine, not theirs to give or take. I didn't need anyone's approval to know my worth, and if I had to remind someone in suit of that, so be it. Meanwhile, I could see Jonathan out of the corner of my eye, still sitting there, shoulders a little slumped, fork pushing at his bread like maybe he wasn't so hungry after all. You could tell he was chewing on something bigger than dinner maybe for the first time, realizing how quick he'd been to judge, how easy it was to assume. I wondered how many times he'd done that, not just to waitstaff, but to anyone he thought was beneath him. When I finally brought out their food, he met my eyes, and this time there was something different, a kind of quiet respect, almost like gratitude. He said, "Thank you for your patience. And again, I apologize. That was out of line." I gave him the same warm smile I'd give any guest. "No problem, sir. I hope you enjoy your meal." And I meant it, because standing your ground doesn't mean holding on to anger. It means owning your story and letting others see it for what it is. By the end of the night, as I stepped out into the cool air, I felt something lift. It wasn't just about winning a small battle or making someone eat their words. It was about proving to myself and to anyone listening that respect is earned by how you treat others, not by what you do for a living or what's printed on your business card. That one interaction, as simple as it seemed, carried the kind of lesson that ripples outward, reminding everyone who saw it that you can't measure intelligence or dignity by a uniform or a paycheck. So let me ask you, how would you have handled that moment? Would you have backed down or stood your ground? Do you think respect should depend on someone's job, or is it something we owe each other as human beings, no matter what? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get real about how we see each other and why it matters. If you found this story powerful, hit that like button, subscribe for more moments that challenge the way we think, and don't forget to share this with someone who needs to remember your worth is not up for debate. Stay strong, stay true, and I'll see you next time.